We have some major Toronto Raptors news to discuss in this video, as reports have been coming out left, right, and center, even from our video just yesterday, as we have some insights in terms of what the Toronto Raptors are looking for regarding a potential blockbuster package involving OG Anunoby or Pascal Siakam, and how likely it is one of those core guys will get dealt, as well as a bunch more reports indicating Gary Trent Jr.'s trade availability is quite high for this Raptors team entering this trade deadline. So lots of stuff to discuss on that front. And we also had a bomb drop from Blake Murphy, as Otto Porter Jr., our big free agent signing from this summer, who's barely played this season, has been ruled out for the rest of the year. So that's unfortunate news for the Raptors, and we'll break down what that means for his future with this organization. So lots of stuff to break down. Without further ado, let's dive in the first topic of discussion. The first thing we're taking a look at is a massive trade update for the Toronto Raptors, especially their core players. Now, when the Toronto Raptors, we've been struggling this season. We came into this year with high hopes, and we weren't expecting to be, the 11th, the 12th seed in the Eastern Conference. It's been brutal. We're outside of the play-in tournament right now, and we've just not lived up to expectations. There's no other way to put it. And to make matters worse, we're not even in the hunt just yet for like a Victor Wembanyama or a Scoot. We could still get it given the odds and stuff. Those lottery simulators sometimes have the Toronto Raptors landing there, but we don't have the good odds as some of the true pure tanking teams. So the Raptors are kind of in a middle ground right now, and it's led to a lot of speculation, especially over the past couple days from Raptors fans, about where we're going to go, what direction we're going to head in. And it seems like, given the reports, the Raptors are still undecided. And we've talked about this a little bit even in yesterday's video about how, by all accounts, the team's decision makers, led by President Masai Ujiri and General Manager Bobby Webster, have yet to definitively commit to a path. It seems increasingly unlikely that they will be looking to buy, given how the first half of the season has gone. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll operate as aggressive sellers either. So this article is also coming from Josh Lewenberg of TSN, indicating, the Toronto Raptors unlikely to be buyers. There's some speculation, especially with the Kelly Oubre update a couple days ago, that we could potentially still go in a buying direction, but it doesn't seem like we're going to be hard sellers either, as he basically said that currently they don't appear to be shopping any of their core players, according to multiple leaked sources, but they do seem willing to listen to offers. They're keeping their options open, as one source described their process, which means they also haven't ruled out anything. Now, when people have been reacting to this article, discussing what this really means about the Toronto Raptors going forward, it means we're not trying to look desperate. We're not trying to look like Minnesota Timberwolves out there trying to desperately land a star and say, hey, we'll give up a bunch of these guys. I guess in the reverse order, right? We're trying to make it indicate. We're not trying to sell. And the Raptors have a lot of time, too, to sort of build up negotiations to figure out what the real value of their players are. So that's how some people have been taking it. And obviously the hopes of turning around the season, upping the value of some of our guys and all that sort of stuff. But if a deal were to go down, we did have Marc Stein come out and give some indications in terms of what the Raptors would be looking for. Basically, he came out and said that the Raptors aren't motivated to trade top players unless they get strong offers. Basically reciting what Josh Lewenberg posted. He cites that Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby in particular as players that would be tough for other teams to pry away. The insane trade market for star players last offseason has likely raised the bar for the types of returns the Toronto Raptors would demand for these players. It wouldn't be unreasonable for them to demand a haul of unprotected first-round picks, similar to what the price tags of Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell were for Pascal Siakam. They are a handful of teams with a surplus of first-round picks positioned to make that type of deal. Anunoby won't go for that type of haul, but should have a strong market with 2 first-round picks, feeling like a fair price point. He can be plunged into every other team in the league and instantly raise their ceiling. So, Raptors fans were quite excited when Zach Lowe came out a couple weeks ago and said that the package for OG Anunoby would be almost Donovan Mitchell-esque. And, that package involves, 3 first-round picks for a guy like OG, which would have been insane, would have been wild. But Marc Stein's essentially saying it would be more like 2 first-round picks, which seems more reasonable, seems less of like a complete finesse for an OG Anunoby package, especially if we're getting another decent player back in that deal. But, And Toronto Raptors, from Josh Lewenberg and from Marc Stein, essentially it's indicated they're not looking to move away from any of their stars. They're not looking to move away from any of their guys unless we're really getting overwhelmed by a particular trade package, which we've seen happen in recent years. So don't write it off as something that's unlikely. Write it off as a deal that's not going to get done. And my worry, especially going into this trade deadline, I've expressed it on these live streams that I don't want to see the Toronto Raptors sell off their top guys for nothing, for just like light picks, go into a deep tank without trying to get some value back. And especially a guy like OG Anunoby, who doesn't have that, those all NBA numbers like a Pascal Siakam, because I don't see a world where we could get finessed on a Pascal Siakam deal. I don't think we're going to, not get the proper value in return from him, but I could see a lesser GM than Masai Ujiri looking at our roster right now and selling low on our current squad, our current roster. So, if we were to trade away OG Anunoby, I'd want a massive haul back. So it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. And if it is, it's going to be a massive return. So that eases my nerves heading into this year's trade deadline. But one thing that does worry me a little bit is the potential return we could get for a Gary Trent Jr. As reports have come out, and let me get these chapters up. More reports indicating that Gary Trent Jr. is available for a trade heading into this year's trade deadline. Now, the video we put out yesterday basically said that there's undeniably available Gary Trent Jr. is for the Toronto Raptors right now, given his contract situation, given the up and down performances, all that sort of stuff. You want to hear the reports that we discussed in the video yesterday, definitely check out that video after this one. But we have more coming out. This is also come from the Josh Lewenberg article saying that many teams in the league can trade for Trent Jr. as a rental. The question is whether or not teams are willing to give up a premium for him and potentially pay $20+ million annually for his next deal. Teams projected to be over the cap this summer who could use backcourt help, like the Suns, Mavericks, and Wizards, could fit this criteria. And actually, this article is coming from HoopsHype. I don't have the labels coming in here, but basically saying that, giving us some more indications that Gary Trent Jr. is available for a potential deal, and also listed 3 potential names, 3 potential teams Gary Trent Jr. could get sent to. But let's see the Josh Lewenberg's his take on it. Break down all the reports before I give my take. But Gary Trent Jr. would appear to be the team's most available player, and presumably his the most likely to get traded given his contractual status. Assuming he opts out of his deal, the 23-year-old shooting guard should be in line for a big raise this offseason. Whether they choose to buy, sell, or hold on to him at this deadline, testing the waters on Trent could be appealing if the Raptors don't anticipate bringing him back at his projected cost, likely north of $100 million. So he's not a perfect player, but his age and his ability to shoot and score the basketball, in addition to his strong play as of late, there should be a market for him. So basically, from HoopsHype as well as Josh Lewenberg, furthering the reports that Gary Trent Jr. is available for the Toronto Raptors, is the most likely player to get traded ahead of this year's trade deadline for the Raptors, which is unfortunate for the Gary Trent Jr. stands. And a couple teams that are listed, which interestingly enough don't involve the LA Lakers, are the Suns, the Mavericks, and the Washington Wizards. Now, the Suns are a team that have been brutal as of late, and given their aging star in Chris Paul, they're a team that's desperately in win now. Ever since Devin Booker has gone down with injury, they have looked brutal, so they'd be a team I'd look to see potentially making a trade for a wing guy sooner rather than later, which might not fit what the Toronto Raptors are in the midst of, given they're trying to still feel out this roster till the beginning of February, end of January. So, the Suns desperately need wing talent. The Mavericks desperately just need talent around Luka Doncic, and Gary Trent Jr. seems like the type of guy that would fit the construction, the type of players that they'd want. And the Washington Wizards, who knows what they're trying to do out there, but there was rumors about a potential Gary Trent Jr. for Kristaps Porzingis package going down last summer that could potentially, those rumors could be picked back up right into this season. So there's lots of teams he could potentially go to, but given Gary Trent Jr.'s stats this year, and my apologies last video, I had the wrong stats up for Gary Trent Jr. My bot ended up giving the wrong indications, but 18 points per game, 2 rebounds, 1.5 assists for Gary this season, 36%, 37% from the 3-point line. He's a guy that at 23 years old, you don't want to just sell for nothing. You don't want to just give up for pennies on the dollar. And if the Raptors are forced to do that, I'm saying, hey, take the risk. Even if it's like a late first, take the risk on him this summer, pay him, and then figure it out from there. Because even the Norman Powell contract, a guy that's way older, plays less defense, and I'm a Norm stan, but open market-wise should have less value than a Gary Trent Jr. They were able to get some young players in return from him, the Portland Trailblazers, when they dealt him away. So even if we give him that type of contract and trade him later on, right, that's better than when his value's probably lower as a rental. So that's sort of my take on it there. And we did have another sort of tweet that's been going around Raptors land that could be fake news. I couldn't get the validation from it, but it's stressing people out, so I'll just give my 2 cents on it. Essentially, it's coming from NBA Trade Report saying that Toronto's received interest in Gary Trent Jr., which makes sense, but he's a player option, as we know. But Toronto's looking for a late first-round pick. And that's the thing that scared a lot of Toronto Raptors fans, because I want more than a late first-round pick for Gary Trent Jr. I showed his stats, his age, his defense ability. We know what Gary Trent Jr. can provide. A late first-round pick is too little of a return for Gary Trent Jr. So that's my take on that, even as a rental. So I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm overvaluing one of our guys, but we'll see what ends up happening. Could be I couldn't find any validation on that source, but I did want to discuss it. But it's going to be a big couple weeks for the Toronto Raptors. And we have some big games coming up. We're playing the Charlotte Hornets tonight, and the Raptors, they need to get this W. They have back-to-back games against the Hornets, and if you want to bet on the Toronto Raptors turning around their season and getting some wins, and you could have made some solid money on the Portland Trailblazers game the other day, use the CoolBet app using the link down in the description below to sign up, for the best sportsbook in Canada. They're regulated in Ontario. They're available all across Canada, and you can bet on every single Toronto Raptors game, NBA game, and sports in general. And ahead of this trade deadline, right, you can bet on some futures involving this Toronto Raptors team. So definitely sign up for the CoolBet app, and if you're interested in all that stuff, they're the best place to book your odds. Make those sports bets. So if you sign up, you join the Raptors Digest, the Cool Betters Discord. So you can get those boosted odds, those more bang for your buck bets. So definitely check out CoolBet app down below. But the next thing we're discussing in this video is some unfortunate news, and a lot of people were betting themselves that Otto Porter Jr. might not ever suit up for the Toronto Raptors again, at least this season, and they would have been right, as Otto Porter Jr. has officially been ruled out, according to Blake Murphy, for the rest of the season. You can see the tweet here. Porter Jr. Underwent season-ending surgery on his problematic left foot. Porter had hoped to avoid surgery, but was deemed his best long-term interest. He has a $6 million or $6.5 million player option for next season. Blake updated his player option value in the following tweet. But unfortunate news for the Toronto Raptors, as Otto Porter Jr. this season, in his few games he suited up for the Toronto Raptors on, didn't have the biggest of impacts, 5.5 points, 2.4 rebounds, relatively efficient from the three-point line, but really would have been a huge asset if he was healthy coming off the bench for this Raptors team. And this makes it less and less likely the Raptors are sort of going to go into this trade deadline as buyers, because we don't have a bench right now, and it doesn't look like there's a lot of hope for really making a push this season unless we get some sort of production off the bench. And the hopes of Otto Porter Jr. being one of those guys doesn't seem like it's actually going to happen. Doesn't seem like it's actually going to go down for this season. But the interesting point about him, because he hasn't had an impact on the team this year, we've basically been rolling without him the entire season. But what does this mean for his future with the Toronto Raptors? And given the fact he hasn't played, given his injury history and his NBA career and his player option he has for next season, expect Otto Porter Jr. to be back on the roster next year, which I don't mind, honestly. If he can come back, rehabilitate, get fully healthy going into next season, he would be an asset. He would be a solid rotation piece. This is exactly the type of player the Toronto Raptors need. So if we are looking to make a quick turnaround in terms of retooling this season, I'd be happy to have Otto Porter Jr. back. So don't expect him to never play for the Toronto Raptors again unless the Raptors are so frustrated with his injuries this season that they just want to move on from the situation. But he seems like a cool dude. He has ties to the Toronto area, and I'd like to see Otto Porter Jr. on this team, bring that championship pedigree, but unfortunately we're not going to see him play this season. So let me know what you guys' thoughts on Otto Porter Jr.'s not being able to play the rest of this year. But the final thing we're discussing in this video is an insane Lakers trade proposal. Now, every fan base has their wild takes. Every fan base overvalues their players, but the Raptors, there was just an especially bad trade take coming from a Lakers Reddit. I pulled it from Toronto Raptors Reddit. It was posted, but I just want to post it here to have some laughs at the end of this video. And basically, they said that the Raptors are imploding. This thread was asking us for some trade ideas for the LA Lakers, and they basically said the Raptors are imploding, which is great for us since we can snag some of their guys. Gotta offload Russ and get some more quality players on the team. AD coming back is huge, and we just need to beef up the supporting cast and to go on an actual run. The Lakers should trade Russ, Nunn, Beverly, and 2 first-round picks with mind you, top 10 protections, right? They need the top 10 protections in this deal. And they'll be getting back Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes, Fred VanVleet. That's who they're getting in return. They're saying why the Toronto Raptors do it. Now they can truly tank and offload a ton of salary and sign a superstar when Russ expires. Imagine Wembanyama plus a superstar. They will bounce right back. And then why the Lakers do it, the younger replacement for Russ and Fred VanVleet, Siakam can lighten the load for LeBron James and AD. And then they went on to say, it ended up getting cut off in the screenshot, that Barnes is insurance for LeBron James as a younger guy. And the Raptors would definitely trade him away as he's been playing so bad this year. So this guy's got it figured out. I don't even know why I'm making videos. This dude is out here. He already knows what the Toronto Raptors trades are going to do, but let me know your thoughts on that. But thought I'd end off with some laughs. You guys are the best to make this far. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Definitely check out the Cool Bet app. Helps out the channel big time, but you guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.